Speak on His Show, episode 39. Let me say that one more time. Speak on His Show, episode 39, 2021. This is it, y'all. This is the last one, the last official show of 2021. Y'all ready? Saturday morning, baby. Let's go. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Speak On. I am your boy, R.W. Coolins. First and foremost, giving honor to God who allows me to come to you in this manner on a weekly basis. How's everybody doing? How's everybody doing? Got good mornings coming in all morning already. Josh Boyd, good morning, my brother. Good morning. Appreciate your support. Happy holidays, bro. Leslie Ambush, hey, cuz. Good morning. Happy holidays. Happy holidays. My man, Maurice Wigfall. Good morning, bro. Good morning. Good morning. Happy holidays. Happy holidays. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. You know, we're getting ready to get into this season. Well, we already in the season, but we got about next weekend. Next weekend, Christmas will be upon us. So this is the last official Saturday morning show for 2021. I'll be doing some videos here and there for Christmas, going into New Year's, but the New Year's show will be the first Saturday after New Year's Day. Raymond Hunter, good morning. Good morning. Appreciate the support. Happy holidays, my brother. And Lady Michelle, same to you. Good morning. Good morning. Appreciate the support. Happy holidays. Ryan Hoodie, good morning, bro. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. Happy holidays. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. As I said, this is the last show of 2021. Official show of the Speak On. We'll do some, like I said, I'll do some videos here and there, you know, up and through the holidays and everything. But we're just going to talk about some things today. Judy Mills, my sister. Good morning. Good morning. Appreciate the support. Happy holidays to you and yours. Let's get these formalities out there. rwcoolins.com. That's the website. You can go there, click on the links, follow through there. We're broadcasting live on Facebook and YouTube this morning. After the first of the year, we plan to go ahead and eliminate the Facebook. We're going to be going straight through YouTube. So if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe. YouTube.com. RW Coolins. That's all you got to do. RW Coolins on YouTube. Subscribe. I think right now it's about 51 subscribers there. And I know I got more followers on Facebook than I got subscribers on YouTube right now. But if you go in there and subscribe, get over to that platform, and then we'll go there. And I may give you a little grace period after the first of the year, just to get everybody acclimated to going there, because I don't want to cut everybody off. But please start subscribing to the YouTube channel. All the videos are there. And then we got some other things coming in the works too. Got my own channel there that if you haven't gone out there and checked it out, all the videos you see on Facebook are there as well. So go there. 844-904-2665. 844-904-2665. No matter what the situation is, let your voice be heard. All we ask if you come in is say what you mean what you say. That's what we do here on Speak On the Show. We come in as friends, we leave as friends, we talk about things, we get it out the way and move on with our lives the same way we came in, as friends. That's what we do here. Also, if you want to listen to the audio after the show, you can download it on Spreaker.com or Apple iTunes. Spreaker.com, not a lot of traffic there. Go there if you want to listen to the audio after the fact, just in case you missed something. If you don't want to watch the video, you can fast forward through, get to the audio. And we're going to start splicing up some of these things on and posting them as well, rather than a whole long drawn out 1 hour, because I know a lot of people be looking for certain segments. We're going to start breaking down the segments as well. So I got to find time to do all this. So y'all deal with me. I'm a one-man operation here. I'm trying to do my thing. Hopefully y'all still hang with me moving into 2022. Let's get into this. Now, I wasn't on last week. I had to take a mental health break. I had some things going on in my mind. I had to get settled. But I'm good now. You can see I'm smiling and everything. We're going to get into this. But one of the things I want to talk about real quick, let's use this. Help me understand Saturn. It's a help me understand. And when I say help me understand, I'm trying to figure it out. And I hope you can help me figure it out, because there's a lot of things that have been going on that have just kind of, you're just trying to figure it out, man. You're just trying to figure out what the mentality is of the people that are reporting, that are talking about it, that are defending certain things in this country at this time with the, the temperature. Let's just say with the temperature of things that are going on. And one thing that I was going to talk about last week that really jumped out at me was all the coverage about the Fox News Christmas tree outside of their studio being set on fire by one man. Now, I'm not saying that we should know anything about this. Don't get me wrong. But the amount of coverage that this Christmas tree that was caught on fire by Mr. Craig Tamanana, whatever his name is, a homeless individual who climbed up the tree, set it on fire and everything, for me was a little overkill. Because what I've noticed is we're concentrating on these little pockets of things in the mainstream media. We're not concentrating on something that is big and is more telling about which direction the country is going. And y'all hear me talk about it, I'm continue talking about it until we get to the bottom of it, and that's the insurrection on the Capitol. I don't care about a Christmas tree catching on fire, because here's the thing, and I don't want to make it seem like I'm just putting it off, but around the United States of America and around the world where Christmas trees are, every year there's at least 3 to 5 homes that catch fire from a Christmas tree. Either the lighting, either the wiring, something. And we hear about it all the time, but it's not publicized like this Fox News. Yeah, I understand it was in front of their building, who Fox News is. I'm cool with that. But Fox News will tell you everything about a Christmas tree burning in their front, but they won't tell you about everything that they had a hand in this insurrection. We're finding out now that all this information is coming out about who talked to who and who did what, and the hypocrisy on the Fox News channel. And I don't like to talk about these people because, it is what it is. But you got to put it out there to really get the gist of what's going on. So we're finding out as the insurrection, as the insurrection committee is going on, that first of all, there was a 36-page PowerPoint that someone put together about this insurrection on what they could do to stop Joe Biden from being put in office. Now that right there should alarm you, that someone took time to make a 36-page PowerPoint to show what they could do to overthrow the will of the people as far as votes, to try to keep former President Trump in power. 36-page PowerPoint. Now, this wasn't attributed to Fox, but this is attributed to someone who felt the need to do this, and people were riding along because the narrative of everything that was in that PowerPoint was continuing to be said throughout the news, throughout the interviews and everything else. But my problem comes in where when you talk about the Fox News people, they were the ones who were we found out about these text messages that were being sent. They were the ones sending text messages to Mark Meadows, the chief of staff for the former president, telling him, hey, we got to cut this off. Tell him to make an announcement, tell him to do something, tell him to come forward so these people will stop rioting the Capitol. They're taking over the Capitol. Now, this was coming from Laura Ingraham on Fox News, Bill Hannity on Fox News, Donald Trump Jr. So there's a lot of jokes about Donald Trump Jr. had to go through the chief of staff to get to his father. So it tells you what kind of relationship they have. But I digress. Let me continue. So there's all these different text messages flying to the chief of staff of the former president to tell him to step up and do something about the insurrection, which tells you that if they felt he could say something to those people, he was the caveat of what started what those people did. As much as they try to cover it up, let's just be honest. I'm not the brightest light bulb in the socket, as I always tell y'all. Good morning, Terrence Collins. Appreciate you, bro. Happy holidays. I'm not the brightest light bulb in the socket. However, I do flicker every once in a while. And I'm flickering right now because what I know to be true, you don't take the time to make a 36-page PowerPoint unless you have intentions on doing something wrong. Case in point. You don't text an individual when something's going on that they say they don't have a part in unless they have some part in it. And all these different lawsuits coming out, this, that, and whatever, to try to stop the progress of what this investigation is all about should let everyone know exactly where we stand with this and what's going on. OT, good morning, bro. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. Happy holidays. But it should tell everybody and let everybody see what's truly going on within our, let's say, government. Certain aspects of our government, certain pockets within the government who want not to govern, but to impose their will on the people. We see it now with this voting rights. All these states, and I say not say all, but a lot of these Republican-led states are gerrymandering districts, changing the district lines, changing the way voters can vote, all these different things in order to impose their will on them winning, so they can impose their will on what's done and what's not done for the people as a whole. These are things that we got to pay attention to. These are things that going into 2022, we need to open our eyes to, because there's an election, a midterm election in 2022. And between now and November of 2022, we got to make sure we're doing what we need to do to circumvent what they're trying to hold us against, hold us from not doing. We got to find ways to get the people out to vote. We got to find ways to make our voices heard. And we got to find a way to push the envelope for the Senate and the House to do their job as far as getting this Voting Rights Act bill put into place, where it eliminates a lot of these things that the Republicans are doing in certain locations. Now, I say Republicans, but there's been some times, let me just be real, because I got to be straightforward and even here, balanced and even, where Democrats have done the same thing as far as changing district lines so they can win as well, but not to the extent of what's being done right now. Both parties are guilty. There's always people, let's just be honest here. I'm gonna digress for a minute. There's always people within these systems, per se, that are looking out for the best interests of themselves rather than the masses. And they're going to do whatever they can to control the narrative and control the outcome on what they can, when they can, in any way that they can. We need to pay attention, and we need to make sure we're doing what we need to do to stay above board on this. There's general elections or local elections. There's places where you can let your voice be heard that we need to get more involved in. It's not always about the Congress and the Senate and the president, because all these gerrymandering things are being done at the local level. At the local level, with the governors, the aldermen, the legislature at your local levels. That's where it starts. And we need to be involved in all this of what's going on and stop just paying attention to those up there and pay attention to it everywhere. Case in point. You know, 1619 Project, critical race theory have been alarm signals for some folks within this last year. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has taken it a little step further. He announced a new legislative proposal Wednesday that would let parents sue if their kids are taught critical race theory in public school, after the Florida State Board of Education voted over the summer to ban lessons on the topic. See, we're back into this again. It peeps its head out every once in a while. And the thing about it, if you read the articles and you listen to the interviews and everything, there are no K through 12 schools teaching critical race theory. There are no K through 12 schools teaching critical race theory. And as you heard me mention a couple weeks ago, they're trying to remove certain books out of the library that deals with the history of and the impact that African Americans have had on this country. Case in point, they're trying to remove the autobiography of Martin Luther King Jr., the I Have a Dream speech, out of the library. And I think it's in Tennessee, because I talked about Tennessee and Texas, but I'm not sure which one. I want to say it's Tennessee. But they're trying to remove all these books off the shelves. So rather than them looking at it with a broad perspective, they want to pigeonhole it to the point that they only want you to know, or they want the young generation, let's go here, to know what they want them to know. Good morning, cuz Renee Ambush Richardson, Queen Ambush Richardson. Good morning. Appreciate you. Love you. Happy holidays. So Ron DeSantis unveiled a proposal called, now watch this now. This ought to raise alarms from the beginning. It's called the Stop the Wrongs to Our Kids and Employees Act. Stop the Wrongs to Our Kids and Employees Act, or Stop the Woke Act. Stop the Woke Act. Now, you've heard me talk about the woke, being more educated than you are woke. Well, here, this is what they flipped what the meaning of woke, the understanding of woke, and what it means when people are saying that they're woke, to minimize what it is in the context of what it was about, to maximize the potential of the fear for some people. So nothing is taught the way it should be taught or what it's about. Oh, excuse me. Now, he had a sign on the front of the podium that said, "Stop Woke Act." This is how serious this Ron DeSantis, and they say he's got aspirations to run for president, whatever. Okay, whatever that is. But this Stop Woke Act, the state education board voted unanimously in June to ban critical race theory and teaching based around the 1619 Project, which reviews American history with slavery as the central narrative, DeSantis said Wednesday. The Stop Woke Act would serve as an enforcement measure for the ban, since parents will be able to hold schools accountable for choosing to teach critical race theory despite the prohibition. I don't get it. Raymond Hunter, morning, bro. Appreciate you. That is pretty stupid. If the suits are against the school board, an increase in local taxes will incur. If it is against teachers, they will have to obtain liability insurance, which they can't afford. And I'm glad you put in there that the teachers can't afford, because teachers can't even afford to buy pencils and pens and crayons no more. They're not even supplying these things for the school districts. What is that about? But it also says, after he went through all this talking about it, he made this quote. And this is what I talk about when I say they use Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s quotes when they're convenient for what message they're trying to get across. Not by the concept of what Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King used it for at the time, but when it's convenient for what message they're trying to portray, when they're trying to make a message. This is what he said. He said, you think about what MLK stood for, which I have a problem when they just say MLK, but that's neither here nor there. He said he didn't want people judged on the color of their skin, but on the content of their character. You listen to some of these people nowadays, they don't talk about that, DeSantis said, quoting civil rights icon Martin Luther King Jr. to criticize critical race theory. His choice to quote MLK led to backlash on social media. I've said this before, and I'll say it again in this context. We have minimized Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to quotes. And when I say we, I mean we as a whole, not just people as stupid as him, as Ron DeSantis, but we as a whole have minimized him to quotes. We've minimized him to quotes. We've minimized him to initials. We've minimized the work, the struggle, the fight, and everything that Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King stood for. We minimized him to quotes. We minimized him to, initials. We've minimized him to the point that people feel that they can just throw anything he said up into the conversation when it's convenient for the point they're trying to get across. But as I said many times about the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King and the government and the senators and congressmen and these politicians who try to throw them up in there to justify what they're doing, people have to remember that Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King was vilified by the FBI. He was being investigated by the FBI. He was being infiltrated, the people around him, all the things that the FBI were doing to try to counter for what he was doing to be counterproductive was done by the government. But you still have people in the government who want to use his quotes to make it seem like, quote unquote, they're woke as far as what the struggle is all about now. Let it go. Let it go. This Stay Woke Act that they're doing in Florida is just the first step in many of what's going to go on in the school districts, in government, in your everyday life, because we see it. It may not, and here's the thing. We pay attention to, and I don't want to minimize what their deaths stood for and what they opened our eyes to. But when you talk about George Floyd, you talk about Ahmaud Arbery and all the different things that have gone on with, Breonna Taylor's and Trayvon Martin and the justice system and what's not right and how it's wrong and what's not being done correctly and all these different things. We can't lose sight of the big picture when they're concentrating on trying to eliminate the history of what's going on. Because the history of what's going on that they don't want you to see, and they don't want you to talk about with the critical race theory in the 1619 project, is to show you how things were going on then that are still happening now, but in a different systematic way. See, we're not new to this. We're true to this. We've been here. We've been dealing with this. You can't spit in my face and tell me it's raining. This Stop the Woke Act, this gerrymandering, all these different things they're doing are to keep a certain people in power. And the game right now is control and power. That's what all this comes down to. And then they try to get into this conversation about, we don't want our kids, our children, to feel because of the color of their skin that they're evil. That they should feel guilty about everything that's going on in the past. No, they shouldn't. But here's where the disconnect comes in for me. If you don't want them to feel guilty about the things that have been done in the past, even in spite of the fact that they had nothing to do with it, if you really think about it, along their ancestry lines, just like along our ancestry lines, there were slaves within our ancestry lines of any people of color. I don't care who you are. Which means that along the ancestry lines of those who are not people of color, you probably had slave owners. But you don't want to address the fact that this goes through the soil, the fabric of this country. Because at the end of the day, you have to look at it this way. And we always hear people say it when it's convenient. In order to not repeat history, you have to know your history. But when you start eliminating the history, you don't want people to see that what you're trying to do now is the same as what was going on before. You're flipping the narrative to fit what you want it to be in a new systematic approach. Now, we see the posts people put up with a little black kid, little white kid holding hands or hugging and all this kind of stuff. And they always tell you racism is not, you're not born racist, you're taught racism. By eliminating these things out of the history, eliminating them out of schools and being talked about, which critical race theory 1619 projects aren't taught in schools, as I mentioned, these are college courses. But to eliminate them means that you're trying to rewrite the narrative over and over again to fit what you've done. And I'm going to get into some things right here in a minute. As soon as I read this, Raymond Hunter. Raymond Hunter, also, they don't want children to know their grandparents threw rocks at Ruby Bridges. I'm glad you brought that up. You helped me out so much, brother. I appreciate you. Case in point. Yes, they don't want you to know that they threw rocks at Ruby Bridges. They also don't want you to know that they burned down a whole city called Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They also don't want you to know about all the atrocities that were done after slavery. Let me say that again. They don't want you to know about the atrocities done after. They don't want you to talk about slavery. But it's been so ingrained that, okay, they can talk about slavery, but we're not going to talk about when it first started and everything from 1619 on that affects us. We're not going to talk about that. What we're going to talk about is the fact that we're going to eliminate our young white children as well as our young black children, because here's what you got to remember. This is not only to keep the young white children from learning the history, is to keep your children from learning the history, from your children understanding the struggles that your grandparents or their great grandparents have gone through. This is an attempt to eliminate it off the books. And we sit back and don't get involved in these things. But let's go further. As Raymond Hunter mentioned, as he mentioned about Ruby Bridges and throwing rocks at her where she had to be escorted to school. Tulsa, Oklahoma. This week, the Justice for Greenwood Advocacy Group is living up to their name. The group recently filed paperwork requesting a federal investigation into the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre, which killed hundreds of Black men, women, and children, and still affects hundreds of descendants today. The group provided a letter to the Federal Department of Justice on Tuesday. The letter contained a request for a formal investigation based on Tulsa's response to the massacre's aftermath, and answer questions that have long gone unsolved. Now, I want you to think about this for a minute. 1921 is when the Tulsa Massacre happened. 2021, we are asking the Department of Justice to do an investigation. 100 years later, we're asking the Department of Justice to do an investigation of what happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma, over 100 years ago. Attorney Demario Solomon Simmons is representing the three known survivors. These three known survivors: Hughes Van Ellis, known as Uncle Red; Leslie Benningfield Randall, known as Mother Randall; and Viola Ford Fletcher, known as Mother Fletcher. All three are over 100 years old. Jackie Banks, good morning. Good morning. Appreciate your support. Happy holidays to you, you and yours. 100 years. And we're asking, watch this now. We have an organization called Justice for Greenwood asking, let me say it again. We're asking the Department of Justice to do an investigation on the Tulsa Massacre that happened 100 years ago. We're asking in 2021, but the Department of Justice, just throw it out there. Justice delayed is justice denied. Took the words out of my mouth. I wasn't going to say it that eloquently, but I appreciate that, Raymond Hunter. But here's where, for me, the water gets muddy. It happened in 1921. The Department of Justice didn't go out there to investigate in 1922, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. You see where I'm going here, right? 100 years later, it took an organization to get themselves together to say, hey, y'all need to investigate this and find out what went on. And they said, we are calling on the Department of Justice to bring the brawn of the federal government to Tulsa to help heal these century-old wounds by conducting a meaningful and objective investigation into the massacre. The 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre, according to that lawsuit, created a public nuisance which still reverberates among survivors and descendants today. Within the public nuisance lawsuit is a request for a victims' compensation fund, a scholarship fund for descendants, immunity from local taxes, a land trust, a new hospital, an end to the use of images without compensation, and an end to financial gain from Greenwood Rising History Center. The new filing also includes a request to investigate the city's handling of the search for mass graves stemming from the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre, of which over 20 mass grave sites have been discovered to this day. 100 years later, we're still seeking justice for Tulsa. What does that tell you? What does that tell you about what Ron DeSantis is trying to do with the Stop Woke Act? What does that tell you when they want to keep the 1619 Project out of the school, out of any vocabulary? What does that tell you when they want to keep, critical race theory and just say it's a theory? Yes, it's a theory. But history has the facts of what this critical race theory has done, what it exposes, how it's affecting us. But wait, we don't want our kids to feel like they're starting off and because of the color of their skin, they're racist. I don't agree with that either. I know and I understand where that comes from. An innocent child should not be held accountable, no matter who they are, no matter what they look like, for something someone else did. Let's just be honest. But let's go back for a minute, shall we? Because all through my life, in my 55 years, I've been held accountable for being a Black man in this country because my ancestry through years and years were slaves. They were beaten, water hosed, dogs sicked on them, beaten in the streets, with no justice served to the people that were doing it for all those years. And even though that may not be how it happens now, it still affects me today. Not because of something I've done, but because of something that was done to my ancestors. And when people see me as a black man, they see me as my ancestors wanting something for nothing, which is not the case. When people talk about reparations and things like this, you need to get down into understanding what the reparations is all about. We talk about it in the financial spectrum, excuse me. We talk about it in the financial spectrum where, we talk about, just take for example, Black Wall Street was a thriving African-American dominated area that they chose to burn down. So all the generational wealth that was in Tulsa, Oklahoma went down in fire. Most of those people that were killed that day that chose to fight back for their property and everything were buried in mass graves. So we don't really know the true number of people that were killed during the Tulsa Massacre. And the Tulsa Massacre is the one we talk about most often. But I talked about on a show probably last year, sometime or the year before, of how many other massacres in different locations throughout the United States took general wealth from being here to being here. But nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody wants to put a spotlight on that. All they want to do is tell you, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Well, I can't pull myself up by the bootstraps if you got me walking around barefoot. I can't pull myself up by the bootstraps if I go into an interview and I'm qualified for the position, but because of the content of my melanin, the people behind that are interviewing me decide not to hire me, no matter what the qualifications are. I can't pull myself up by my bootstraps when I walk into an interview. I can't change what I look like. But because I can't change what I look like, my resume shows me as being qualified, but my vision of what they see disqualifies me for having that position. See, these are the things that we know, but we don't discuss. These are the things we know that are not put into the equation when we talk about building and having generational wealth. Because all those people that were affected, Tony Williams, appreciate you, bro. Appreciate the support. All those people that were affected by these massacres at different locations, Rosewood, Florida. Thank you, Raymond Hunter. There's one in Wilmington, North Carolina. And there was one I found out today. Not to be jumping around, but y'all see where I'm going. Just hang with me. It's the last one of the year. Work with me, y'all. Work with me. But I just found one today when I was reading some things early this morning. And there's a 90-minute documentary on this. And I think everybody should go check it out because it'll give you some understanding. It's not going to give you the full text, but it'll give you some understanding. It's called Rise Again, Tulsa and the Red Summer. And it was a documentary on Hulu. So you can probably go to Hulu. If any of y'all got Hulu. You can go to Hulu and probably type it in. Rise Again, Tulsa and the Red Summer. And it goes into talking about all the massacres that were going on during Tulsa and before Tulsa. And this is one that I found out. See, we always concentrate on Tulsa, but there was one before Tulsa back in 1917, 4 years prior to Tulsa, in East St. Louis. There was East St. Louis massacre. And it was the first of a series of race riots. The person that did this documentary, his name is Dawn Porter, and she examines America's anti-Black / Jim Crow programs. But the one I'm talking about in East St. Louis, and I just roughly read up on it, so I don't have all the facts of it. But what I got from it, this is where the water gets muddy again. Antonio Jackson, what's up, bro? Appreciate the support. Happy holidays to you and yours. But this is where the water gets muddy for me. So we hear about Tulsa all the time, but we never heard about the East St. Louis massacre. And I'm just going to give you a synopsis of what I've seen. But this East St. Louis massacre, it was a meat packing plant. And the meat packing plant employees went on strike. So in order not to shut it down, the meat packing plant owners started hiring African Americans, Blacks, to work in the meat plant. And every day they left that meat plant, they were beaten, hit, but they still went back. They still went back because it was a job. They were trying to provide for their family. And then one day, East St. Louis went up in a ball of flames. All because the African Americans, blacks, were working at this meat packing plant. But we don't hear about that. So it didn't just encusp the meat packing plant, it was the whole city of East St. Louis burned. That's the first, from what they tell me, in 1917. But we concentrate on Tulsa. And I think we concentrate on Tulsa because it was called the Black Wall Street. It was an aspiring African-American affluent area in Greenwood, in Tulsa, Oklahoma. But there are so many of these same stories, of these same outcomes in other different cities around the United States of America that they don't talk about. This is where it gets into play about eliminating the history as we know it and providing history as they want it to be seen. The Stay Woke Act is a part of that. Eliminating certain things from history so people don't feel guilty. My thing is, in order to come to grips with what has been done in this country, you can't eliminate certain things and highlight other things. I don't know. Maybe it's me. Hey, but Weekend, good morning. Good morning, sis. Appreciate your support. Happy holidays. Raymond Hunter, we were set free against the will of half the country. They will never forget or forgive. Prosperity in the face of poor whites is also unforgivable blackness. You know, it's funny you bring that up, man, because I had this discussion with someone the other day. And it went to the point of, I think there was a quote, and I don't remember the quote per se, verbatim, but it was something to say that if you can make the lowest white man feel better, feel that he is superior to the black man, then you've already won the fight. Something to that extent. And when you bring this up, Raymond Hunter, it just strikes a chord because you're trying to eliminate the history. And no matter how much progress we've made, no matter what seats we sit in, as far as being the first black president, vice president, black female vice president, all the firsts that we get are minimized due to the fact of who they are. You know, we praise the fact that we had Barack Obama as the first black president and everything. And then people get into the conversation, well, what did he do? What did he do? He didn't do this. He didn't do that. Well, you can only do what they allow you to do in a position like that. Let's just be honest. And then people say, well, he didn't do enough for black people. Well, the government plays a part in that. If it hasn't been done up to this point, what makes you think it was going to be done just because President Barack Obama was voted in? Let's just be honest with ourselves. The fight is every day. The fight is every day. The struggle is real. The struggle is real. Leading into my next door. Joe Morrow. Y'all don't know him. Y'all don't know Joe Morrow. But I'm going to tell you who Joe Morrow is. Joe Morrow is a Minnesota man who was the victim of what many call banking while black. After being put in handcuffs after attempting to cash his paycheck inside a U.S. bank branch in suburban Minneapolis, Minnesota in October of 2020. He went in to cash a check that he received from his job. Now, this doesn't matter, but it does. The check was for $900. The check was for $900 that he received from his job. He went in to cash the check at U.S. Bank, which he has an account there. The man said he was informed by the bank manager, John Asquith, that the check was fraudulent and that, quote, you people always coming in here with fake checks. You people always coming in here with fake checks. They called the cops. And when Sergeant Justin Pletcher arrived, police body camera footage showed Morrow already in the office of Mr. Asquith, leaning back in the chair, hands folded. Leaning back in the chair with his hand folded. See, for me, I'm getting a visual here. See, Joe Morrow had no problem leaning back and being comfortable in that chair because he knew he had done nothing wrong. See, that let me digress for a minute, because this is something that I think a lot of people need to understand about us. We're not saying we're always right, and we're not saying that we always do right. But I can be resting assured that when we right and when we know we right, you ain't gonna do nothing, you ain't gonna say nothing that's gonna bother us to the point that we're gonna act out of character until you lay your hands on us. Till you lay your hands on us, or you call us out our name. Till you lay your hands on us, or you call us out our name. So I say that because Mr. Morrow, as they said so eloquently, was laid back in the chair with his arms crossed. Like, what y'all know? What y'all gonna do about this? Y'all gonna give me my $900 that I brought this check in here for? Y'all gonna continue that crazy about it? What y'all gonna do? I'm paraphrasing, but I'm just saying that would have been me. So I said he was leaning back in the chair, hands folded. The 23-year-old maintained that the check was indeed real. He said, I work there, bro, and I'm going to report you too. Bro, this is racial. This is what Mr. Morrow said. Calmly. He was saying this calmly, without expletives, to the manager before he was cautioned. Watch this now. Before he was cautioned about his allegations of racial profiling. He said, Joe, I need you to calm down first of all. Okay, don't say anything stupid because you are just going to get arrested for it. The officer warned Mr. Morrow. Now, Mr. Morrow has done nothing wrong. Mr. Morrow is being accused of having a fake check. Mr. Morrow has told them, I work there, bro. The check is real. This is some racial profiling. No, wait. The police officer, wait. Don't say nothing stupid now. You're going to get yourself in bigger trouble. I love Mr. Morrow, and I don't even know him. The manager, who was blurred in the video, told authorities that the check was fake and that he had already confirmed it with Mr. Morrow's employer. Now watch this. However, it was later proved that Asquith, who was the bank manager, only called for verification of the check after Mr. Morrow was removed from his office. When he did, the employer told him the check was genuine. Mr. Morrow was handcuffed and taken out of the office. Mr. Morrow said, when I'm coming out of the office, I was handcuffed. People were looking at me like I'm a criminal or something. The guy, Mr. Asquith, the bank manager, told the police officer, can you get him out of my office? He might take something off my desk. That's when I got super mad. I'm going to touch something on your desk. This is what Mr. Morrow was saying. So the bank manager told the police officer to take him out of the office because he might take something off his desk. And he lied, saying that he had called the employer, and the employer said the check was fake, but he didn't call the employer until after they had already handcuffed Mr. Morrow. U.S. Bank. This is U.S. Bank. For any of y'all to do banking, this is U.S. Bank. According to the news station, the bank reached a settlement with Mr. Morrow almost 2 weeks after the incident took place, and although details of the agreement have not yet been made public. So they had to backtrack. They had to come to a settlement. U.S. Bank CEO Andy Cecere, issuing a statement Friday, December 10th, said in part, I am deeply sorry for where we have failed. What Mr. Morrow experienced is not the experience that any customer should have. Sometimes, unfortunately, we do not live up to our goals. Can we concentrate on this last part of this statement? Sometimes, unfortunately, we do not live up to our goals. What goals? What aren't you living up to? Racial profiling that went awry? So now you're not living up to your goals? Are you worried about losing business? And my other question is, when they come out with these things, when people sue or go against these things, how come we never know what the settlement was? Why do they want to keep the settlement so quiet? You're wrong, but how much did it cost you for being wrong? See, this is where, for me, the water gets muddy because they don't want you to know how wrong they were by how much money they had to pay. I'll say this, and I say this a lot, and I say this to people that know me, and they probably heard me say it many times. I've probably been wrong more than I've been right in my life. With no problem. I don't have a problem saying that. I've probably been wrong more than I've been right throughout my entire life. However, when I'm right, and I damn sure know I'm right, or you can guarantee I'm standing on it. I'm standing on it for the simple fact that we always try and we always seem to find the wrong in most things that go on around us. But when we're right and we do things the right way, there's silence. People don't talk about what's right about you. They always want to talk about what's wrong. I don't have no problem telling nobody out there. As I said, I've been wrong a whole lot more than I've been right. But what I will tell you is when I'm right, oh, you're going to hear it. You damn sure going to hear it. Because the simple fact of it is that most people would like to know about your wrongs more than they do your rights. And for Rodney W. Collins, I'm going to let you know I'm right. And when I'm right, I'm going to be loud about it. Just as loud as you were when I was wrong. We need to get more comfortable with that. It's not being braggadocious. It's not thinking that it's all about you. But if you can be loud about my wrongs, damn it, let me be loud about my rights. Because when I'm right, oh, trust and believe me, you're going to know about it. And some of y'all need to be more vocal about when you're right. And stop letting people minimize who you are because of your wrongs. No matter who you are, no matter what walk of life you walk in, no matter what you may have done in your past, if they was loud about your past, tell them to be just as loud about your future. If they loud about your wrongs, tell them to be just as loud about your rights. People, we gotta stand up for what we know is real about who we are, and stop letting people minimize who we are because of what we may have done wrong at one time in our life. Stand up, yell it from the rooftop. You are somebody. Just put it out there. Inflation. You know, this was another conversation I had this week. They were talking about gas prices and how high gas prices are. And as I mentioned on here before, you know, we know gas prices, the president doesn't control the gas prices. Gas prices, food, all these things are dictated by supply and demand. Now, I'm not an economist. Hell, I don't even like balancing the checkbook. Let's just be real. It's done electronically now, so I really don't have to do it. But let's just be real about this. Anybody that's been around long enough, they can separate themselves from being Republican, Democrat, Independent, politically affiliated. And just look at it from a human aspect will tell you that they know inflation is not dictated by no daggone president. When I hear them talking about Joe Biden's raising gas prices and we were better off with Trump and this and that, think about where we've been up to this point. The pandemic has dictated where prices are right now. The pandemic has dictated where prices are right now. I want you to think back when we first got into this pandemic and it started going around, people were running out buying toilet paper or paper towels, all the necessities they felt because we were in this pandemic and there was a shortage. I will guarantee you, if the stores and the retailers had an opportunity to raise the price at that time when everybody was going out there getting it, they would have done it. But there wasn't enough time. You know why? Because people were running out there buying that stuff off the shelves before they could restock. There was no time to change prices because you had to try to find something to put on the shelves. But now there's a restocking. But then they say there's a shipment shortage and the delays in shipment, they're looking for truck drivers, all these different things that they put in the equation of what is causing the inflation. Supply and demand. During the pandemic, people weren't going anywhere. Gas prices were low. As we're coming out of the pandemic, Gas prices are going up because the supply and demand of people needing to get to where they need to get to compared to the year and a half we were in lockdown. Food is going up. Always remember this. I'm not going to go through it all, but just remember this. On here it says consumer prices rose 6.8% in November, the highest annual inflation rate since June of 1982. The figure exceeds the 6.2% year-over-year figure from October. Increases were seen in gasoline up 6.1%, shelter up 0.5%, food up 0.7%, used cars and trucks up 2.5%, and new vehicles up 1.1%. Rent also rose by 0.4%. Meat, poultry, fish, and eggs were up by 0.9%. Pork prices rose especially sharply, up 2.2%. For all you bacon lovers, pork rose 2.2%. But for me, bacon's not pork. Bacon is bacon. But you figure it out how you want to figure it out. That keeps me from the fact of I don't eat pork, I eat bacon. Today's numbers reflect the pressures that economies around the world are facing as we emerge from a global pandemic. Prices are rising. I say that to say this. One funny thing that jumped out at me before I get into this. The dollar store is now $1.25. The dollar store prices are now $1.25. That means inflation is in the mix. But I say all that to say this. We need to look at the fact that during this pandemic, during this time, it has changed a lot of things. Prices have changed, prices have gone up simply because supply and demand, simply because a lot of the businesses that you're buying, these things that you need from that are raising the prices, have to try to recoup the money they lost during the pandemic. If you're a business owner, you're probably raising your prices as well. Nobody's saying there's anything wrong with that, but people need to stop pointing the finger at the one man that sits up there that we call president because of their political affiliation and try to blame him. At the end of the day, prices go up every year. Sometimes, depending on what it is and what they're trying to sell, it accelerates quickly. But we get so caught up in this fact of who the president is and what the Congress and the Senate are doing and everything. We don't look at the business owners who's trying to recoup what he lost. That's across the board. Do you think that a car dealership is going to lower price on a new car just because he got so many cars on the lot? No, he's not going to lower the price of the car. If anything, he's going to try to find some incentives to get you in there to buy the car that he's going to get on the back end. It's called business for a reason. No business can run continuing to charge what they were charging before. Supply and demand. Just hold off. The prices will come down. The prices will come down. Then they started bringing up, well, prices ain't usually this high in the wintertime. Well, hey. What do you want? I went in the store the other day. The stores don't even have half the things you went. I went out Christmas shopping. Just put it out there. I went out Christmas shopping. And don't save your opinions. I know it's late, but I went out Christmas shopping, okay? But I digress. Let's go here. There's nothing out there. A lot of the things that you're looking to get that you would normally buy are not there. But the things that are there are high because they figure you'll settle for that because you can't have this. Supply and demand. The trucking industry, they're hiring, they're talking about lowering the age for CDLs down to 18, which I think is a big problem. You're going to put an 18-year-old behind a 58-foot tractor trailer doing 70 miles an hour on the highway. A lot of responsibility. Some people say, well, you send kids off to war. Yeah, you send kids off to war. But there's a whole lot of training done every day before you get to that point where they send you off to war, in most cases. Just saying. You got to think this through. Some things you can't just do a knee-jerk reaction and think it's going to solve everything. It's not going to happen. Dumbest decision is Shanice Gaither. Shanice, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to you and yours. Exactly. Dumbest decision ever. If they do that, you think you had accidents out here now. It's going to get real ugly. It's going to get real ugly. real ugly on them highways. I mean, that in conjunction with them getting these, you know, trucks that drive themselves. Mm, mm. I have my opinions, but I'm gonna keep them to myself today. Let's go ahead and move on. Move on. Mind, body, and soul. Today's mind, body, and soul. This is the year 2021. We coming to an end, y'all. 2021, self-help, self-care, taking it one day at a time. And I think going into 2022, and we'll talk about this in the first episode for 2022 because, and I'll probably do some things, as I said, some videos here and there, but not a actual show between now and then. But I think going into 2022, we all need to sit back and reevaluate some things. Don't let 2021 consume you as we go into 2022. Take that time, think about it, catch all the things that were right and wrong in 2021 and move on into 2022 on a clean slate. Have your goals, have your vision boards, have all the things you normally do to get ready for the new year and set them up and do it the right way. But don't do any knee-jerk reactions because this happened in 21. I got to do this in 22. That's not what you want to do. All right. So the mind, body, and soul for the day. It's a quote from, and see, I was torn about this because I have two of them wrote down. I get into this mode sometime. Robert H. Schuller. This is a quote from Robert H. Schuller. And today's mind, body, and soul is today's accomplishments were yesterday's impossibilities. Today's accomplishments were yesterday's impossibilities. Now I'm going to take this back to what we were talking about before with the critical race theory, 1619 project and things like that. I want you to think about where you're at right now, where you sit, how much wealth you may have, how comfortable you are. Let's just say how comfortable you are. You own your own home, you don't have a car, you have a roof over your head, you got food, you have all these things, in spite of inflation, what you have. And I want you to reckon back to the impossibilities that our ancestors seen in the yesteryears. And think about the vision that they had that was so small. And when I say small, I don't mean small as far as a small accomplishment. I mean small as far as what they seen that they wanted and they needed. And something that small was only the fact of freedom. The freedoms that we have today were impossibilities yesterday. And I'm going all the way back before I come up because I want you to go back all the way back to what those people dealt with coming over on those ships packed, stacked high, being beat, feet cut off when you try to escape for freedom. When even if anything you did, in spite of what you were trying to do to find freedom and be free to be who you were, you lost arms, legs, lives, separated from families, all the things you can think of these atrocities have done to us as a people. The freedom that we have today, they seen as impossible. And now I'm bringing it up to the day. We've worked hard. We work hard every day. We've accomplished a lot of things in our lives as African Americans, Blacks in this country. We had a freedom to go certain places that were not always there. We have freedoms to do and live and certain things with the caveat of there are certain things where restrictions are thrown in our way, but we find a way to persevere. But the impossibilities that we see that happened to us yesterday or the day before or anything like that in our lives are today's accomplishments. Because in spite of everything we may have to deal with, how we're looked at, how we're viewed, how we're overlooked, how we're told no, how we're told the woke movement is something that needs to be stopped, because what we're trying to do is get an understanding of our history so we understand who we are as a people. It has nothing to do with the fact of making someone feel that they're responsible. All we're asking is take accountability for what was done. Yesterday's impossibilities are today's accomplishments. We got to continue to keep pushing on. We're going into a new year, and the new year shouldn't signify a new start. The new year should signify the continuation of the previous. We got to keep pushing. We got to keep our head down. We got to keep going. We got to keep imposing our will on the fact that this is what we want. This is what we're going to get. And by any means necessary, we're going to make it happen. Because what we find out is when we get these roadblocks, we always find a way to get around it. We always find a way to get over it, even if we have to get under it. We keep on pushing on. We got to continue pushing. We got to continue fighting. And we got to continue to let our voices be heard. We got to stop being silent at times we need to be loud. We have to speak up when we know that we're right. Just like they want to speak up when they know that we've done something wrong. Keep pushing, keep fighting, keep progressing. Keep progressing. Raymond Hunter, we produce citizens that have worldwide acclaim. And never forget your relatives survived behind being chained and laying in human waste for 3 months. Never forget. See, I think, thank you, Raymond Hunter. I appreciate that. I think we get caught up in what we're not able to do daily. We find these roadblocks and we say, damn, I wish I could have done this. I wish I could have done that. But we never take it to the point, what Raymond Hunter says so eloquently, of what and why we sit where we are because of all the fights that were done before us. And I'll say this, and I don't want anyone to take offense to this because I'm guilty too. We've gotten soft. We've gotten soft because now we're qualified. They were qualified too. Now we have the experience. They had experience too. Now we're able to hold these jobs. They could have held them as well. See, I want you to correlate where you are with where they could have been if they were given the same way to be able to fight against what was being done to them. See, we have embraced what was given to us by our ancestors, but sometimes we lose sight of the fights that our ancestors went through for us to get here. We didn't, and they didn't just wake up yesterday and say, I'm doing this for future generations. What they did, they woke up every day knowing that they had to fight in order to survive. See, we talk about establishing and making generational wealth. They fought about just becoming generational. That's something you need to keep in your mind, in your being. Today's accomplishments were yesterday's impossibilities. Remember that, live with that, learn from that, and keep fighting with it. Because everything that they fought for, that we stand on today, was not given, it was earned. Blood, sweat, tears, and lives. We benefit from everything and every struggle that went on yesterday in order for us to move on to accomplishments today. Don't lose sight of that. Please don't lose sight of that. Get off your high horse. Walk out of that 4-5 bedroom, 3,000 square foot house you got. Take a walk. Contemplate on what the struggle has truly been for those before us, before we start talking about the struggle we have right now. They fought. We're not fighting. Not the way they did. Keep on keeping on. Don't give up. We got kids, grandkids. They need to see us in the fight. They need to see us standing up for what's right. And as I mentioned before, with the right and the wrong, when you know you're right, yell it from the rooftops. Don't let anybody diminish your rights. And when I say rights, I'm not just talking about the right to do this right. I'm talking about when you're right and you know you're right. Stand on it. Stop letting people diminish it. Let's go ahead and wrap this up. Appreciate everybody tuning in today. This is the last show of 2021, as I mentioned. It's bittersweet. Just to be real, it's bittersweet for me. I'm not going to get emotional here today, but it's bittersweet because we've gone through another year. 39 shows this year, taking some breaks here and there, some mental health breaks that I think we all need to take at sometimes. But going into the next year, we're going to do some improvements to the show. We're going to take some different avenues with the show. We're going to have some different conversations with the show. And I appreciate everybody tuning in up to this point. I'm going to have some videos, sporadically between now and the first new show when we come around. But I always say this, and I hope y'all understand that I don't do this for me. I do this because I think there's information that needs to get out there that you may not get from the mainstream media. I think it's things that need to be said that some afraid to say. I mean, I get to the point sometimes I'm like, should I really say that? Should I? But I will tell you, when I get to those points, I think back. Because what I'm free to say now, they were not free to say at all. That's what keeps me pushing. That's what keeps me going. That's what puts me in the mindset that when I come on here every Saturday to give y'all the information, it's not about me. It's about exposing and recognizing, and I won't say expose, but recognizing the past trials and tribulations and how they correlate to the trials and tribulations we have today, but in a different specter, a different mindset, and in a different way. But what we got to do is we got to keep pushing, we got to keep fighting, and we got to keep in focus that what we're doing now, our ancestors could only dream about ever having an opportunity to do. Do not take anything that you have going on in your life for granted. Nothing. The fact that you're able to see your kids, the fact that you have a two-parent household, if that is what your situation is, or one-parent household. Let's just be real. If you have parents in your household, whether one or two, someone is taking care of your children, doing what they need to do for your children. Where back in the day, they didn't have that option. They had to make a way out of no way. And I want us to stop getting comfortable with where we're at and know that things are changing. The mindset is changing. The dichotomy is changing as far as what they want us to know and what we truly should know and need to know. And I'll say it again, as I always do, read, read, read. Stop leaving it up to everybody else and open a damn book. Open a book. Read. Find out for yourself. That's all I'm saying. Gary Burns, great show as always. Happy holidays, my brother. I owe you a call too. Happy holidays, my brother. I love you, man. Appreciate you. Shanitha Gaither, God bless you, my friend. Happy holidays to you and yours. Same to you. Appreciate you. I think I owe you a call too. My bad. It's been a while. Raymond Hunter, thank you for the forum. Thank you, cousin Maurice Wigfall, for the intro. Hey, I appreciate it. Thanks, Wigfall, for bringing your cousin in. I appreciate you, Raymond Hunter. And keep tuning in, man. Keep providing that information. Lady Michelle, have a happy holiday. Thank you for keeping us informed all year. I do my best. And I appreciate you. Thank you. Happy holidays to you and yours. Jackie Banks, thank you. Wishing you and your family a blessed and safe, happy holiday. Same to you, Jackie Banks. I appreciate you. Enjoy that retirement. I know you are. And Judy Mills, great show. My sister, I appreciate you. I owe you a call too. Boy, I owe a lot of people a call. Don't think when I'm saying I owe these people calls, I haven't been reaching out to other folks. I just ain't reached out to them. I got a lot of people I got to keep in contact with, but I'll be reaching out to everybody in this time of the holidays. And what I will tell you guys is enjoy your holidays, enjoy your family, love up on one another, hug on each other, appreciate each other. Because here's the thing about this. We had these holidays that we're in. Happy holidays, sis. Appreciate you. Judy Mills, happy holidays, you and Pam. Appreciate you, Judy. Appreciate you. I'm going to say this because, we get caught up in the holiday season. And in the holiday season, it seems like we try to cover all aspects of reaching out and talking to each other and celebrating each other and everything like that. But I will say this, and I don't want to go into detail, but we need to appreciate and enjoy the company we have, our family that we have, and those around us that we truly love. It shouldn't just happen, and I said this, it shouldn't just happen during the holiday seasons. Be thankful. Be thankful all the time and tell people you're thankful for them. Someone somewhere right now, some family member is going through. Some family member is struggling. Some family member doesn't know if they're going to make it or not. We have to be cognizant of the fact that we shouldn't wait until we know that someone may not make it through for us to come through. We should be there. We should support. We should reach out and just say, hey, I'm just checking in on you. It don't take much. It don't take much. Everybody got unlimited plans and you got a time to do everything else. 2 to 3, 4 minute phone call ain't never hurt nobody. But there's somebody out there right now waiting on a phone call from somebody. Why not be you? Reach out to that person you haven't talked to in a while. Somebody you may, just come to mind. The first person that comes to mind, just reach out, talk to them. Tell them you were thinking about them. Because as I said, we get caught up in our everyday going to work and getting busy and everything, but we should never be too busy to just reach out. Someone would love to hear from you today. Me too. I love to hear from people as well. As I always say before I sign off, love yourself, love one another, keep your head up, and most definitely, keep your faith in God. 2021 is coming to an end, y'all. 2022 is about to begin. It's not an ending of a year and the beginning of a new one. It's a continuation of life going into a new number from 21 to 22. Hold on to that. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. And I'll see y'all soon. Holla at me. Look for the videos coming up in the next couple weeks too. I got some things for y'all. I'll holler at y'all. Enjoy your holidays and enjoy the weekend. Peace.